Maranatha, and welcome to the Septuagint versus the Masoretic. This is the only ministry in the world where we are comparing the Septuagint translation to the Masoretic translation to find out the truth about the Bible. Today we're looking at Deuteronomy chapter 16. There are 22 verses in this chapter. There are 22 verses. Beginning in verse 1, we see a significant difference. And before I begin, let me just say that this chapter, this section of Deuteronomy, is basically Leviticus chapter 23 reiterated. So the first significant difference we notice is in verse 1. It says, "Here you shall sacrifice the Passover," versus to keep the Passover. It's one thing to observe and keep, but no, the commandment is to sacrifice. You are taking the life of a living creature, in this case a lamb or a goat. Next difference we notice is in verse 2. It says, "Have his name called upon it," versus to place his name there. We notice this continuously. Verse 5, we have a big difference. That difference is on the first day, the day after Passover is officially the first day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Okay, I think I got the verse wrong. It's actually verse 4. So it is verse 4. So the big difference here is in verse 4. It says here, "Leaven shall not be seen with you in all your borders for 7 days, and there shall not be left of the flesh, which you shall sacrifice at evening on the first day until the morning." So this is the first day, not of the week, not of the month, but of the first day of unleavened bread. So the day after Passover is officially the first day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread, in case there was any confusion. The Masoretic expresses it this way. It says here, "You sacrifice the first day at evening, remain all night until the morning." So all night, it's saying all night. It doesn't give you a specific date. The Septuagint, it does give you a very specific date. In verse 5, continuing on, we have an omission of power to sacrifice. It says here, "You shall not have power to sacrifice." That was omitted. Again, cities versus gates, another difference there. Moving on to verse 7, it says boil. You shall boil. That was omitted from the Masoretic. Verse 8, holiday. On the seventh day is a holiday, a feast, versus a solemn assembly. It's not simply a get-together, it is a holy day, a holiday, and a feast. Another omission in verse 8 says, "Save what must be done by anyone." So this is work. It's not no work full stop. This is specifically work. The work that is permitted is what must be done by anyone. And some people interpret that to mean food preparation, for example. That's work that must be done in order to keep yourself alive and others alive too. Verse 10, another omission. Accordingly, as your hand has power in as many things. So you will keep this feast, specifically speaking of the Pentecost, Shavuot. You shall keep this feast according as your hand has power in as many things as Yah, your Elohim, shall give you. So that is a very specific condition in order to be able to keep the feast, because this is a pilgrimage feast, one of the three. So that makes sense when you consider it is a pilgrimage feast. So let me write that down here. Due to it being a pilgrimage. The other two are Sukkot and what's the third one? It's escaping me right now. Please mention in the comments if you remember what that is. There's 3 times in a year you must appear before Yah, your males, firstborn males specifically. I believe that Shavuot is one, and the other one is Sukkot, and one I'm forgetting at the moment. Might be one of the other fall feasts. Perhaps it's Atonement. I'm not sure, but please mention it in the comments because right now I can't remember because I'm human. Add with the tribute. So in addition of with a tribute of a freewill offering of your hand that was added, which you shall give unto Yah your Elohim as according as Yah your Elohim has blessed you. So that big section was not even in the original. In regards to with a tribute of free will offering, and then which you shall give. And another addition in verse 15, skipping over to there, it says a solemn feast. And on a mission of for himself shall choose, not just choose, but shall choose for himself. And then it says here, if Yah your Elohim bless you, versus because. So one is saying you will be blessed, one is saying you may or may not be blessed, depending on the circumstances. Life changes. And it says here, then you shall rejoice. If you are blessed, that makes sense. If, and then. But if it's because you are blessed, therefore you shall surely rejoice, it's saying that you're going to be blessed no matter what you do. But that's not reality. There are droughts, there are famines, there are times in life where we are having abundance, experiencing much abundance and wealth, and then other times we are lacking, we are destitute, and things are not so good, and we have to tighten the belt. So if you are blessed, or I should say not blessed, by a lack of harvest, then you will not be able to rejoice in a genuine way, in a very real way. That's an important point to make. So not everyone's going to be blessed to the same degree, or some people may not be blessed at all. That's an important point. We have an omission of the word fruits as well. Right here, in all your fruits, same verse. So that is the blessing specifically, not just blessed in general, but in regards to the harvest. Verse 20, you shall justly pursue justice, versus that which is altogether just shall you follow. So the difference here is that you will pursue justice. Who determines justice? Well, that's Yah. That's Yah's Torah. That's his commandments. His decrees, his standards help us to determine what is justice. Here it's saying which is altogether just, so it's kind of leaving it up to people's opinions, and people can do what is right in their eyes, but here it is saying, no, it is justice. It's not just you're going to pursue something, no, it's justice. And that is determined by the law. It doesn't say that explicitly, but I think that's the implication. And then it says in the Masoretic, that which is altogether just shall you follow. Again, a little more vague. Verse 21, for yourself, you shall not plant for yourself a grove. You shall not plant for yourself any tree near the altar of your Elohim. That's an interesting choice of words, that you won't plant a grove or even a tree. Let's look at the difference. Why is that important? It says in the Masoretic, you shall not plant you a grove of any trees. Even one tree is not allowed. So a grove is distinct from trees. You won't plant a grove, and you won't plant any tree. Full stop. And the Masoretic saying, won't plant a grove of any trees. So you can possibly use this as a loophole and say, okay, I'm not going to plant a grove of trees. I'll just plant one tree. I'm not saying don't even plant one tree near the altar for yourself. That's not to be done, according to this verse. In verse 22, the last verse we're looking at, you shall not set up for yourself a pillar, which Yah your Elohim hates. So the word here is pillar. Here it's saying it's an image, but we know in the tabernacle and the temple of Solomon, for instance, they did have images. They had graven images of different animals. So this doesn't line up with what happened later on, especially when we take that into account. But if you look at the Septuagint, it does make sense. It does fit the narrative that you won't set up a pillar. I don't think this is just any column. This is a specific kind of pillar, probably associated with the way other the pagans would worship. This sounds like a specific type of pillar. It's not. Perhaps it is a obelisk. Perhaps just stretching there, kind of reaching for a possibility. So that's all I have for you for this chapter, Deuteronomy 16. Thank you very much for your time. May Allah bless you and make your way prosperous. Till next time, we'll look at Deuteronomy chapter 17. And this is the Septuagint versus the Masoretic. Maranatha.